Hello, hi group. This is the Tuesday Q&A live. Hope you're all well. It's sunny here in Cardiff today. It's been pretty miserable on a couple of days, but hey, we're in the UK, and if we didn't have the weather to talk about, well, what else would we talk about? Hey, so I'm just going to make sure that I'm streaming to the Facebook group now, because you can never quite tell. Let's have a look. I mean, if any of you are on here, if you can just, yep, I can see myself now. But if you want to say hi, that would be lovely. So, okay, we've got two great questions today. The first is about business growth, and the second is about press releases, which is something that I've been doing for like 30 odd years now. So that one's going to be a great question to answer. Okay, so the first question, we're going to jump right in. The first question is there a rule of thumb when judging if your business growth is fast enough for it to be a worthwhile business? What should year 1 and 2 business growth look like? Okay, so as always, fantastic questions. So, okay, business growth. So the first thing is it really depends on what type of business you own. It also depends on things like profit margins and what your overheads are. And it also depends on whether you've invested in your business. Because you see, for most businesses, it takes at least 1-2 years to actually show any type of profit. Okay. And if you've bought a franchise, for instance, there are some franchises that they've got such hefty upfront fees that they don't make a profit for at least 5 years. Okay. So can you imagine if you had a business like that and you gave up after sort of 2-3 years because it wasn't making a profit, but actually it was not meant to because of the amount of investment. So it really is about sort of what you put in and what you take out. and then from that point of view, you can see whether your business is going in the right direction. Now, the other thing I would say though is, what are your aspirations for growth? I mean, really, what's your expectation? And is there a disconnect between those two things? Okay, because if you're expecting sort of huge growth from day one and you don't get it, then you're going to be constantly day by day waking up and thinking, crumbs, my business is not working. Okay, so you do need to have realistic expectations about the type of business you're running and the type of profit that it can return. And when I say profit, it's basically, you know, are you doing what you're doing and selling what you're selling at a profit so that you can take an income from it? Because if you're not, that's where the pain lies. Okay. So the big question to ask yourself is, are you making a profit from what you're selling? And have you got enough income to live on? Now, if you haven't got enough income to live on, then you really have to question what you're doing, okay? Because although there's a certain amount of time that you can push through this, you know, you don't want to be eating baked beans on toast because something is not working. And if you're not returning a profit, if you're not taking some kind of income from your business, you really need to look at it and think, well, is this what I should be doing? And, you know, are there better ways that I can make an income? Okay, that's the real cruel truth about this. Okay, the other thing is, if you're making some kind of profit, but it's kind of not, you know, you're just about limping through. You've got like a mediocre business. It's providing you with some kind of income, but it's less than you'd get if you were in a job, but you're kind of happy doing it. Okay, so in those instances, okay, then you again need to look at what you're doing and see if you can improve your business. So the question to ask yourself is, are you treating your business like a hobby, or are you treating it like a committed business? Because there is a big difference, folks, between hobby business and a committed business where you actually get up and you make stuff happen every single day without fail, okay? Because you're on a bigger mission. So if you are approaching what you do as a job just to pay your a wage, okay, that's when we get into comfort zone stuff, and comfort zone stuff rarely grows a business. So if you're just like going through the motions day by day, just because you're kind of reaching a target of £500, £1,000 a month, okay, then you have to be just real with yourself and go, okay, so, is this a business I'm running, or is this just an income stream that I'm looking for instead of having a job? Because it gives me other things. It gives me flexibility and freedom. If you look at your business and you go, right, I want it to grow more, it's making a tiny bit of profit, I'm getting some income from it, but you feel in your heart of hearts that your business could be, growing at a greater rate, then what I would say to you is, what type of market are you in? And what are the top players in your market? What are they doing and what are they earning? What are the mid players in your market? What are they doing and what are they earning? And then what are the low players in the market? What are they doing and what are they earning? Okay. And then position yourself where you are on that scale. Are you midstream? Are you kind of lower? And the good news is, if you're kind of lower midstream, well, that's great, because you can aspire to improve your business and up level your business for growth. So it's about looking at the market and finding out what the players above you are actually doing and what you're not. And when you find that difference in what you're doing and what they're doing, that's where the improvement lies. And that's how you can up level your business. And that's a real big clue, actually, of what you could be doing better. Okay. Okay. So now to the real tough kind of answer for this one, which is, when do you carry on fishing, or when do you cut the bait? Cut to the chase here, right? When do you actually go, this isn't working, it's not growing as fast as I need it to? And that goes back to those first kind of answers about, is it returning a profit for you, and is it getting you an income? If it's not, then you really seriously need to look at what you're doing, okay, and why you're doing it. Now, often, if your business is not running right, there is an underlying personal reason for that, okay? So it could be, there's often sort of business issues that you need to sort out, but there's also, if you look to an underlying reason. So for instance, do you actually love what you're doing? Do you seriously love what you're doing? Because, hey, in business, we've got to be passionate. We've got to love what we're doing, because that's what gets us out of bed in the morning. This is not a job, folks. This is a vocation. Okay, this is a life calling when you run a business. So do you love what you're doing? And then the other thing is, are you running this business for the right reasons? I mean, sometimes businesses are set up in anger, or to prove something to someone or to family members that, I can do it. And look at the motivations behind why you are running this business as well. And the third one I would say is, if you are just truly exhausted, if you've got to the point where you're exhausted and you're tired of struggling day by day, then you have a choice to make, don't you? You can either empower yourself to step up and really kind of give it one last go, or you go, that's fine, I'm done with this, I'm moving on to something else. And that doesn't mean going back into employment. I mean, I've done this several times over kind of 20, 30 odd years. I made a choice where if I didn't love something, or I was doing it for the wrong reasons, it was time to cut the bait and move on to something else. Okay. And start up another business. Okay. With one of my other sort of talents, skills, or passions. So I hope that's kind of answered the question. There's no real kind of, what should year 1, 2 business growth look like? Honestly, it really depends on what your expectations for growth are. It also depends what business you're running and what sector, and where you are on that scale of growth or positioning in the marketplace. I think it's positioning in the marketplace. That's what I'm trying to say here. So that will give you a big clue, and that is where the leverage appears. That's where you can actually look to people who are doing things a little better than you are doing, because they're making more money than you are, and see what they're doing, and then look for the difference between you two. Okay. And find out what they're doing and what you're not, and then do it. Okay. Go do it. So there we go. So that's the first question. Okay. And then the second question is, okay, again, great question, is, do you have any hints or tips, Heather, for getting the most out of your press releases, or from press releases? Okay, so I've been writing press releases for 30 odd years. Can you believe it? Oh my goodness. It's where my career actually started. And I was taught by one of the best journalists and PR people that I know. I mean, truly, I'm so grateful for the training that I got in this area. And I worked for a big major organization across the UK. And so we were writing press releases on a daily basis. And we were doing, we were talking to journalists, press journalists, and I was doing sort of radio and television interviews every single day. And the TV interviews every week, okay? Because I had quite a big region. I was covering the southwestern Wales area. So I know what it kind of takes to write a press release and to get it to the journalists and for them to get to sit up and take notice. Okay, so I've got a few little kind of gems of information that may help you. Okay, so press releases, or better known as news releases, which I prefer to call them news releases, because that's the bottom line of a press release, is that they have to be newsworthy. Okay. Just because you've invented this new widget and you think it's fantastic, okay, it doesn't mean to say that people are going to be interested in it. It doesn't mean to say that journalists are going to be interested in it, okay? But if you go to like Widget International magazine, then they will be interested in it, okay? So the tip is that your press releases, news releases, they need to be newsworthy, which means new, okay? New news and information, okay? They also need to be different. They need to be unusual. Okay, they can't be samey. If they're samey, if you're just saying what other people are saying, the editors of these newspapers and magazines are just going to go, hey, that's just another one. But if you found a different way to do something, if you found a different audience to help, if you've got a human interest story and it will appeal to the readers of that publication, then you're onto a winner. Okay, so the most important thing is to look at who you're writing for. You know, who are the readers and what would they like to know? Okay, what's the news release? What's the story that you've got that that they'd be interested in? Now, there is a difference also between news releases, press releases, and features. I don't know if you know this, but features tend to be longer in length and they tend to be more human interest. Okay, so if you've got like a long story and a case study of somebody who's used your product or service and it's literally transformed their life, okay, that's a really, really fantastic sort of human interest story, and that's something that magazines would be interested in, and that's where feature articles come in. Or there's probably a features desk on your daily newspaper as well, and then we go into radio as well and TV. So features are a longer length, okay, but press releases mainly they're very short. They can be 1 page or 2 pages, no more than 2 pages, okay. If you have editor's notes, they can be a 3rd page, but really you need to keep it really concise and clear and to the point. That's the point of a press release, okay. All right, okay, so you write your release accordingly to the market, the audience that you're writing for. The first sentence, I'm going to go through just the structure to make sure that you're writing the press release correctly, because there is a correct way to. So the first sentence should tell the entire story in that first sentence, okay? One tip for me is go grab a load of magazines or more importantly, go and grab a load of newspapers, right? Look at the titles of them, look at the headings, and then look at that first sentence of every single story, okay? And 9 times out of 10, the first sentence, maybe sometimes running into the second, but the first sentence will blow the entire story about what it's like. So you could just read the headline and the first sentence and it would tell you exactly what the story is about. So that is why when you write a press release, you're aiming for about between 20 and 25 words, no more than that, in the first sentence. And it's the entire story in a sentence, in that first sentence. So it needs to be clear, concise, and to the point. No kind of fluffery, no kind of, oh, we're amazing and we're incredible, okay? It's also written in the third party. So it's, it's written as if you are the journalist, because that's what a news release is to all intents and purposes. You are the connection between the journalist and sort of the readers. So you're doing the journalist job for them. You're making their life easier. You're supplying them on a plate the story. Okay. So first 20, 25 words, very clear, concise, to the point on a press release. You should write your entire press release based on the who, what, where, why, and when formula. Okay. who, what, why, when, and when, why, when formula. Okay. And the reason why we keep a press release, we put the most important information at the top of a press release, is that editors tend to cut from the bottom up. Okay, so if they cut your press release from the bottom up and they were left with that first sentence, they could still print that first sentence with a photograph and you'd still have a story there. Okay, so that's what they do. And they do that because of space limitations in newspapers. Now, of course, I'm talking about sort of offline releases. The same principle applies for online press releases, and there's lots of free press release distribution services out there. So just Google them, okay? So you don't have to spend a fortune on employing people to distribute your press releases for you. You can actually do it for free, okay? Didn't know if you knew that as well. So the most important thing is when you pick the publication, phone them up, phone the news desk up, speak to someone on the news desk, and ask them and say, look, I've got this story for you. Are you interested? I'd like to send you a release on it, but so I don't waste your time, very quickly, are you interested in this story? Okay, get their name and then make sure then you mark the release, the email for their attention, and then follow up a phone call the next day. Selling in a press release is just as important as writing it and distributing it. It's that sell in the next day to say, have you received it? Are you going to use it? Was it of interest to you? Do you need any more information? Can I put you in touch with anybody else that you could talk with that would back up this release? Okay. What else? Let's have a look. I'm just seeing if there's anything else I have missed. So phone them the next day. Oh yeah, that's it. Right. Okay. So if you are going to phone a news desk, be aware of whether there are a daily, an evening newspaper or a morning newspaper. Okay, so if you're contacting a daily newspaper that is printed in the afternoon, the evening, so there's a lot of regional press that are published of an afternoon, okay, a late evening. What you don't want to do is you don't want to phone them when they're on deadline. Okay, there is nothing more annoying to a news desk, to a journalist, is if you ring them when they're on deadline, because they've got their editors screaming at them and they're just about to press the button on going to print. So on an evening publication, regional newspaper, you would never ever call them in the morning, okay, because they will be running around, okay, trying to get stuff together, and the last thing they want is little you kind of on the telephone going, oh hello, I've got a release you might be interested in. No, and you're really going to annoy them. So leave it. If it's an evening publication, you must leave it until the afternoon to call them, okay. Likewise with a morning paper, you do it sort of the afternoon. Oh well, yeah, no, you wouldn't do it the afternoon, you probably do it in the morning. Yes, you do it in the morning the day before. Okay, so I hope that helps. That's the run through of press releases and business growth. I hope you found that helpful as usual. If you've got any business colleagues that would be interested in joining this group, please sort of invite them to the group, and we'll see if they're a good fit and then invite them in. But I hope you found this really helpful. If you want to sort of post any more questions during the week, just hop on one of the links, the Q&A links, and put your question there, and I'll make sure that I line it up for the question and answer session each week. Okay, so guys, have a great rest of the week, and I hope the sun is shining with you. If it's not, make it shine anyway. And I will speak to you soon. Take care. Bye now.